Nobody likes it when somebody or something overpromises and underdelivers. And as you walk towards this car, it promises you a lot. It's got like amazing Plum Crazy pearl paint job. You've got 20-inch rims with 305/35 tires on all four corners. You've got some of the best looking rims on the road. And as you sit down in the comfortable seat, push the start button. It roars to life. And you engage first gear in this manual transmission. And off you go. This car promises and delivers. So spending time with this car, we have absolutely loved it. And the great thing is, gas stations, driving through neighborhoods slowly but noisily, everybody responds, especially because it's in this awesome color. So when kids give you the thumbs up because they've just heard and seen this beast coming at them, as you pull away, you can give them the soundtrack that they're expecting. Transmission is spectacular. It's slanted and forward, and as you go through the gears, you really feel like you are in an old school muscle car. We all have visions of AC Cobras with their shifters sort of twisted over to the left and forward, and as soon as you get in this car, that kind of reminds you of that. I mean, first gear is so far forward, and then even as you bring it up to the next gear, it's still barely straight up and down. There's just something really cool about that. And that's the way you roll in this car. You want to make some noise, you can make some noise. It doesn't have silent mode like the Ford Mustang. So when you start this thing up in the morning, a cold start, it's loud. It's extremely loud. Is the fit and finish in here the way you'd want it to be? There's nothing wrong with it. Interactivity, hooking up your phone, nav, all works great. You have so many different settings on the dash to go through. Lots of performance settings here. We've been driving this on auto, but when you put it into sport, it reduces the traction control, firms up the suspension, and firms up the steering. And when you put it on track mode, it really firms up the steering and firms up the suspension. And the traction control is greatly reduced. The ride is really firm, and it would be amazing on a racetrack, especially, go to a track like Mosport where you're just powering out of turn 5B and making use of all this horsepower and torque down the back straight and with your manual transmission. It would just be a blast. Even on a dry day, second gear, warm tires, warm road, doesn't matter. Second gear, you can light up the rear tires even with the traction control still on. So by putting it into track mode, you'd be asking for trouble. One of the things we always ask ourselves after spending time in a car like this is, will we miss it when it's gone? And the answer is 100%. It's just so much fun to see people get enthusiastic about a car. I could gripe all day long about the fact that most of the cars on the road are either white, black, gray, or silver. And rarely do you see anything else. It's shocking how many white cars are out there, and black cars. So it's great that Dodge is offering more than a dozen different colors on this car, especially something as fun as Plum Crazy Pearl. It's beautiful. You've got the spoiler on the deck lid, big splitter on the front, 305/35 20 tires, interestingly enough, on all four corners. You'd think that Dodge would have staggered this and put larger wheels and tires on the back, slightly smaller wheels and tires on the front, but that's not the way they did it. You've got the same on all four corners, so that this is not just a dragster car. On the track, I think this car would be amazing. Having the equally large tires and wheels on the front would definitely, I assume, help with cornering. Amongst all the instruments on your cluster, so it'll record your top speed, and you can also do 0 to 100 km/h runs, and it'll time that for you. 0 to 160, 0 to 200 km/h runs. You can also do quarter miles. You can do braking distance. You can do G-forces. Do peak G-force, and this car has Brembo brakes, so we've generated almost 1 G of braking force with this, and we never really brake that hard. The Brembo brakes really do a great job. I'm sure on the racetrack there would be very little fade, and boy, do you have a lot of different Dodge Challengers to choose from. For 2019 in the Canadian market, the pricing goes from the entry level for the SXT of $33,000 with the V6 and 305 horsepower. Next up is the GT at around $36,000. Again, V6, 305 horsepower. And both of those cars are available in all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. And then the next four models all have V8s of varying sizes. The RT is around $40,000 and has a 5.7 liter V8, cranking out 372 horsepower. Next up is the Scat Pack 392, which is what we're driving. And in Canada, the MSRP on that is around $51,000. It has a 6.4 liter and 485 horsepower. And then you get to the two crazies. At $76,000 and $94,000, you get the Hellcat and the Hellcat Red Eye. So the Hellcat has a supercharged, slightly smaller 6.2 liter engine, generating 717 horsepower. And then if you want to give yourself a red eye, you're up to the top rung for this car at 797. Let's call it 800 horsepower. And it probably does have 800 horsepower, which is insane. Do you need a lot of horsepower? As every race car driver will tell you, more horsepower. And as Jeremy Clarkson, formerly of Top Gear and now Grand Tour, would say, more horsepower. Well, 485 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive muscle car like this, non-turbocharged, non-supercharged, just full-on power whenever you want it. This car delivers. It is so much fun to drive, and it sounds the way it should, performs the way it should, and it really does give you a sensation of driving something that is quite special. And as you can hear, this engine is a tad on the noisy side, which is the way you want it to be. So you may have a bit of a hard time hearing me, but that's a good thing because you get to listen to this beautiful V8 just roar away. And does it roar? Along with a roar comes semi-regular trips to the gas station. This is not a Prius. We've driven just under 300 kilometers and we're averaging 19.6 liters per 100 kilometers, which is a tad on the thirsty side. But it's tough to achieve a sound check like this without having to give it a bit of fuel to drink. And yet, if you get this car into sixth gear and get it under 1500 RPM, it's silent. And right now we're only using 7 liters per 100 kilometers. So it's your basic econo box. Take it down a few gears and put your right foot down to catch up to traffic. And yeah, we just blew through a few liters, but it's kind of funny. We were going down we were on the highway at highway speed, going down a very big hill. So I thought, why not save some gas? Put it in neutral. And I thought, let's see how low we can get this to go. It was still 3 liters per 100 kilometers at idle going down a hill. Cannot get the all-wheel drive in a manual transmission. You can only get it in the 8-speed auto. And you can't get it with any of the V8s. So V8 with all-wheel drive and a manual transmission would really be fun, but that's not an option, not a problem. If you're looking for a car that really entertains, you will not be disappointed with a car like this. We would really like to try the all-wheel drive version in the winter. Can you imagine seeing something almost like this driving along the highway with snow tires on it in the winter, 4-wheel drive? I think that's fantastic. Dodge sure has given consumers lots of different ways to mix and match. And like I said, with more than a dozen colors between the engine and the transmission and the color and the drivetrain, and you can really go to town on this. Thank you, Dodge, for making such an entertaining car. We really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Drive safely, and we'll see you soon.